a lot of Democratic Jews kind of feel stuck coming up on this election. You know, you have Donald Trump getting out there saying what I think a lot of right of center Jews feel, you know, if you're voting for a Democrat, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should have your head examined. If you're a Jewish person and you're voting Democrat, you should be ashamed of you. Like saying things like that. However, there's a lot of Jews who kind of feel stuck. I mean,
yeah, so, you know, what do you say to a Democrat who voted for Hillary in 2016 and then Biden, and now feels like in this election they have to choose between their democratic values and their Zionist values?
And do you feel stuck also in some sort of way or alone in your party?
I mean, I've had differences with the president, but I disagree with the premise. I do feel President Biden has been fundamentally pro-Israel. I mean, he was the first president to go to Israel in a time of war.
Right.
You know, he sent not one but two carriers to the Mediterranean to deter the threats confronting Israel. And in mid-April, you know, the collaboration that we saw between the United States and Israel in response to the Iranian drone attacks and missile attacks was, I thought, a remarkable triumph of the U.S.-Israel relationship that sent a powerful message to the world, that's demonstrated to the world the value of a U.S.-Israeli security umbrella in the Middle East. So there have been issues on which I've had disagreements with the president, but there's no doubt in my mind that he is fundamentally pro-Israel. There are elements of the far left that are vehemently anti-Israel, even anti-Semitic, and are intent on wiping Israel from the map. But those elements still remain the fringe rather than the mainstream of the party.
And so you're encouraged that your voice is more representative within the party than people holding up signs calling Bibi a war criminal or things like that. Like that's, is it also, and what's the trajectory? I think people see the RNC and they see people, you know, if you're watching and you see the RNC having, you know, speaking about hostages and having hostage parents speak, would we see the same thing at the DNC? At a time, I would imagine we certainly would, but in that conversation that's going around the Jewish dining room table, you know, or the pro-Israel dining room table, not just Jewish, but anyone who cares essentially about this issue or a lot about this issue.
Look, I feel like we have to think in terms of individuals rather than parties. Just like there are pro-Israel and anti-Israel Democrats, there are pro-Israel and anti-Israel Republicans. You know, Tom Massey is an example of an anti-Israel Republican. If I recall correctly, he voted against a resolution recognizing Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. In 2021, the only senator who was a stumbling block to Iron Dome was Rand Paul, who's a Republican. So I feel like the U.S.-Israel relationship faces challenges not only from the anti-Zionism of the far left, but also from the America First isolationism of the far right. That America First isolationism is no friend of the U.S.-Israel relationship, and even J.D. Vance, who's the poster child for isolationism, voted against the National Security Supplemental, which included about $25 billion in funding for Israel. So the reality is more complicated than the narratives that form in our imagination.
For sure. On that subject of the far-right isolationists on the Republican side and the anti-Zionists on the Democratic side on those sort of fringes, on the subject of Iran, which is like on our minds every second of every minute as we speak, an attack on Israel is imminent.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you've made it this far, we want to let you know that Ami's House is now on Patreon. We love doing extra content, bonus footage with every episode. The best way to support us is to head on over to Patreon, become a guest, and support the show for $5 a month.
If you like watching Ami cut me off, Patreon is
Patreon.com/Ami's House for bonus content. Thanks so much for your support and become a guest.